Hey guys, welcome to another New World video. In today's video, I wanted to have a look at the newest episode of Forged in Eternum that the devs released today. The timing was of course perfect, because the response they've received from the last community dev update hasn't been the greatest as it seems, and I think they wanted to touch base in order to potentially put out some of the fires that they started. So, let's have a look and see what's been going on. So the format of this video was the devs addressing some questions. Now, I will start off by saying, I think they need to find a better person to choose the questions. Because frankly, I think what causes a ton of community confusion, and anger of course, isn't the answers that the devs give. It's that some of the questions they choose to address are weird. Questions that are asked by a person and are not in any way representative of the community at large. All it does is end up leaving us shaking our heads and thinking that they just answered nothing. So the biggest questions continue to go unanswered. But anyway, it is what it is, so let's just get into it. So first, of course they were asked what a joke of a roadmap. Are the devs part-time employees? First I have to say, this is an example of a dumb question. Any real New World player who has played since the launch sees clearly the amount of time and effort the devs have put in. So we as a community, although frustrated at times, recognize their work. However, as for the roadmap, I don't think it was bad. What I think was bad was how they communicated it, that not everything that was planned was on it, and that there was more to come. Late in the dev update last week, they did say that it did not cover everything planned. However, it was just mentioned in closing, briefly, and people tend to skim videos. So most people probably just viewed the roadmap image and assumed that was it. So I can see where the confusion and frustration on both sides is coming from. But in any event, the reasoning they gave for not including everything on the roadmap was the leaderboards. The fact that they were unable to deliver those in the time frame laid out on the last roadmap has them a little shell-shocked to jump into committing to everything on this one, which I suppose makes sense. So basically the roadmap is the stuff they are ready to commit to and not everything planned. The next question, PvP content, where is it? And sadly, the answer they gave was, as usual, vague and empty, saying influence changes planned will work to encourage world PvP, and that's about it. So yeah, I don't see the PvP community accepting that happily as a solution for the future. Cause remember the last time that they had promised that a big change to the world was going to encourage open world combat, and that was the luck change, and it did nothing. The next question sort of tied into that, and they addressed upcoming weapons, specifically the dagger. They explicitly said the daggers will not be the next weapon, which although may not be popular, I do agree with. The dagger would likely be yet another dex weapon, and we currently have a lot of those. They did say though, they have another weapon planned and they do hope to make it a focus-based weapon to aid in buffing and healing. And based on old dev videos and conversation, I think we can safely assume the one-hand mace will be our next weapon. This just makes sense to me as a buffing healing alternative weapon to be based around focus. Now, I could be way off, but we will see. But to be fair, it is a little too soon. I mean, we did just get the greatsword less than a month ago, and it hasn't seen any live balance passes yet. So really expecting another weapon this soon is a bit much. Then of course they addressed mounts. I know a lot of players assumed we would see mounts on the roadmap, and I wasn't surprised to be honest that we didn't. Let me explain why. In this video they addressed the question by saying mounts will be a huge feature that will require massive amounts of work and would likely be accompanied by a trade skill to complement it. This is of course something we always assumed as a community, a husbandry sort of trade. That makes sense. Now, to address the next question while talking about mounts, which was why the roadmap only goes to September and not beyond. This, of course, they addressed by saying it's too far out to commit to anything right now. But I think maybe something more. I believe completely that in 2023, probably in November, or maybe even sooner, like on the anniversary in September, we will receive an announcement of a New World major release, and a feature like mounts and a trade skill to go along with it will be one of the selling features of this major update. Again, maybe I'm completely wrong, but think about it. A trailer showing an open field into a new zone in Eternum, with some crazy corrupt creatures milling about. Then you hear thunderous sounds slowly getting louder and the corrupt creatures take pause, and then they start to look around. Then boom, a group of heroes trample them under hoof. This will be the opening scene of the New World major update next year, I would bet anything on it. We will have to wait and see though. Like I said, maybe it's completely copium on my part, but it just feels so right based on everything we have seen. However, at the end of this video, they did say that the major update release will be an annual thing, much like Brimstone, and to expect one next year. So something as big as mounts, I'm sure we can expect to be in something like that, and not in a regular update. Moving on. They also addressed an actual important issue, which was the mutations, and how having so many difficulties tends to make finding a group and progressing more difficult. And they did confirm that this is changing and we will be seeing less difficulty variants to make finding a group easier. Then they hinted at a release, which will likely accompany a new mutation release was my initial thought when they said it. Then I rethought when they mentioned the leaderboards. So now I think, with the release of the leaderboards, that would be a good time to see this change, and will likely be when we do. They also wanted to address the idea that the community had that these videos would be replacing dev updates. And they said no. But really, yes. What do I mean? Well, they will be still doing dev updates, but much less frequently. But the new short, Forged in Eternum format vids will continue frequently. So in reality, it's kind of a yes-no answer, to be honest. Basically, dev updates will be long-term changes, big announcements and stuff like that, made really infrequently. But the Forged in Eternum will be the more frequent and short-term changes that are coming to the game. Stuff about to change or that has just changed, and in a more relaxed style. So, then they address OPR. Will it get a new map? The short answer, no. It isn't planned. What they do want to do is freshen up OPR. They say that the reason for this is because it would split the community and make it more difficult to get into an OPR or any match. I don't agree with this sentiment. Yes, having different OPR maps might split the people queuing, but now how do you prevent this? Rotate the maps. The same way you rotate mutations. There is no split if 1 week we have an OPR map that we have now. Then next week we have a different map, and then the week after we have another map. And it rotates between them. This would mean only having 1 map per week on offer to queue for. Then there is no split. Very simple, right? This would also bring back a lot of players, which would increase the amount of people queuing. But anyway, they sent out a community question. What adjustments would you like to see in OPR? Well, pretty safe to say the number one thing people want is stuff to hide behind. That's all that's posted all over the forums. Obstacles to avoid the super annoying muskets. That would be big. But if you guys have any other ideas, be sure to post them for them because we need to see these changes come into effect. If we're not going to be getting another new map, we at least want to improve this one. Now, I want to say something directly to the devs here, or at the very least to the people responsible for questions that the devs get asked in these videos. Next time, please collect your questions from the forums, from YouTube, even from polls in the game. The questions that seem to get through are the silly questions only asked by the trolls on Twitter. These are not the issues or questions being asked by the community at large. If you do this, you will get a much better response to your answers. It isn't that your answers are bad, it's that you're not answering the questions the community actually have. Okay guys. Well, I just wanted to talk about this stuff because, well, as a community, we are slowly becoming split again. And I hate to see this. We need to stop splitting the community between PvP and PvE. We need to stop being toxic and angry. Because regardless of how various people express it, the bottom line is, for the most part, we all still love New World. If we didn't, we wouldn't be so moved by it and moved to express it in such big ways. So instead of infighting, trolling, and acting childish, we need to stay focused and positive and constructive and be clear to the devs about what we want to see, and hopefully we will have the game we want sooner rather than later. Okay guys, well, I've posted a link to the video in the description. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments on anything that you see in it or anything that you hope gets changed. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.